Welcome to Creative Tien channel. Today we are going to knit another mitten with a LK150 knitting machine. We want to improve the mitten from last video. I will link the last mitten video in the description box. And we will add the intarsia picture knitting of a heart shape in the middle. So when you have left and right hand together, it becomes a complete heart shape. I'm using a worsted weight yarn this time and use the same numbers of stitches as the last video. Last time we used the DK weight. The worsted weight works about the same. It's just a little bit dense. And this mitten is for average adult size. So same as usual, we start with every other needle from the left 18 to right 19 stitch. We start with waist yarn and then change to the main yarn, knit 30 rows, and pick up the first row of the main yarn and hand it back to the empty needle. That's our mark ribbon. Or you can hand manipulate the purl stitch or knit the ribbon by hand or from another knitting machine with a ribber. After the mark ribbon, we knit one row and we will just follow the chart. The design is very similar to the last mitten, but you can see the thumb opening is right next to the edge, so it's easier to knit on the machine. And I change it to 7 stitches, so there are 7 stitches for the opening, and you just cast down another 7 stitches to make it 14 stitches. And you will see the left side and right side opening will be in the opposite location, so it will become symmetrical. And after the mark ribbon, you see we have 7 rows, so we will knit 7 rows plain. So after the 7 rows, we will start doing the intarsia or the picture knitting. There are many ways to do the intarsia knitting, and one simple way is to knit the background rows on a knitting machine and hand knit the picture rows. So each row we have to work twice. Here I set up the carriage so the machine will not knit the stitch on the D position. That's the position that's all the way out. Those are the picture stitches and I will hand knit it. So I have to prepare separately the yarns for the picture. Make sure you have enough yarn and wind it into a separate ball. And I will leave the ball in front of the machine, between you and the machine, and you can just leave it on the floor. To hand knit the stitch, you can just place the yarn in the latch and pull the latch back. That will be 1 stitch knitted. So you can refer to the chart. We start with 2 stitches in the center. So we knit those 2 stitches. And then we'll push out the needles all the way out to the D position. That's the colored pictures we will hand knit. And when we need to increase the stitch, we just pull the stitch out to the D position and hand knit with the colored yarn. And every time we finish the hand knitting of the color yarn, we push all the needles out to the D position and run the carriage to knit the background stitches. So just remember, every time after you hand knit, you push all those stitches out and knit 1 stitch with the rustle lever on 1. So that means the stitches in the D position were not knit. So we just keep following the chart. Every row we have to work twice, once with the knitting machine and once by hand knit. When we are around 15 rows from the mark ribbon, that's where we want to start the opening of the thumb. So besides the 7 stitches, we put the rest of the stitches to the D position so the machine will not knit. And then we will start casting on another 7 stitches. Or you can cast on 8 stitches if you want to have 1 extra stitch. So after seaming, it will not be too small. And for the cast on, I just use a double E-wrap. I wrap around the empty needle twice, and the second time I pull it through. So it's a little bit more sturdy than simple E-wrap. We need the sum the same way as in the last video. I need 15 rows and start to decrease every other stitches by transferring to the next stitch, and then transfer all the stitches together and knit 1 row. And then you can reduce it 1 more time, transfer every other stitch, and then move all the stitches together and knit 1 row. And then we cut the yarn, leaving the yarn tail, and thread it through the last few stitches. So that's the thumb, and then later we can just sew up the sides. After knitting the thumb, we will place it back to the knitting machine. So we'll hand it back to the empty needles, place some weight, and continue knitting. And we'll just following the chart of the heart shape and increase the hand knit stitches in the center. And when we are in the center of the heart shape, there are 2 stitches of the white background color in the center. So we will have to put those 2 stitches back to the C position or B position. So those 2 stitches will knit back. One way to reduce the float in the back is to knit the background yarn every few stitches. And we can do that by hand knitting it. Just place the white yarn into the ledge and together with the colored yarn. It only shows the colored yarn in the front. And we can do that maybe every 5 stitches. We don't want to have too many because it can get very tight. So I think around 4, 5, 6 stitches will be a good number to prevent a long float in the back. Some people can do that later with a separate yarn and just crochet it together, so you will not have long floats. And the last part of the shaping is the top. We want to decrease stitches, so we want to knit them separately, the left side and right side. We can put one side on hold, the same way with the Russell lever to 1, and push out one side of the needles to the D position. And then we can just decrease according to the chart. Here I just move the outer stitch in without doing the full fashion decrease. In the last video, I did the full fashion decrease. It's personal choice. And at the end, you can just knit a few rows of waste yarn and take it off machine. And now we just need to sew up the side seams, including the thumb and the cuff, the ribbons. And we will do another hand with the thumb opening in the opposite direction. So that's how I do basic mittens with picture knitting. It's not that hard, but there's still a lot of details that can go wrong. Like you forget to do the thumb opening because you're concentrated on the picture knitting. Or you might forget to do the top center shaping of the heart because you're focusing on the outside of the heart. And that happens a lot to me, and it happens a lot in machine knitting. So if you practice and you are getting good at it, you might as well knit more pairs and give it away as gift. And I will have the chart as a download in the description box. Thank you so much for watching today, and see you next time.